Hey everybody, Milton Davis here. Tonight is Halloween night, and I've decided to come to you and read a story from my book, Skerry Tales. The name of this story is Battle Axe, and this is my first live. So thank y'all for whoever's there coming and checking it out. And let's get started. He's a battle axe in the time of a war. He's a battle axe. In the time of a war, he's a battle axe. In the time of a war, shelter in the time of a storm. Abraham listened to the lyrics seeping out of the doors of Piney Grove AME Zion Church with his eyes closed, the power of each word warming his body. Clutching the collar of his overcoat, he gripped his walking staff with his right hand, then lifted his large suitcase and ambled toward the church entrance. He liked the old churches, buildings constructed over 100 years ago by the weary hands of the ancestors of the people that now attended. He imagined just about every person sitting on the worn pews inside were related to the founders and each other in some way. It was just what he was looking for and just what he needed, a shelter in the time of a storm. By the time he reached the front doors of the church, the choir had finished their song and the pastor had taken his place behind the pulpit. Abraham closed his eyes, listening to him pray before the sermon. He had a young, strong voice, the kind that stirred emotions in the congregation, but lacked the experience to make his words sit in your soul. In another couple of decades or so, he would, if he was still preaching. After prayer, the pastor directed the parishioners to the book and chapter that served as the inspiration of the day's word. Abraham grinned, mouthing the words with the pastor. Abraham knew the King James Version of the Bible by heart. He also memorized the Ethiopian Bible, as well as the Coptic version. There were more, many more, but these were the ones that were special to him. Ethiopia was his heart and home, but it had been a long time since his eyes beheld her beauty. He would return one day, but not yet. Abraham continued to wait outside until the doors of the church were open and the pastor put out the call for new members. Applause rose twice, which meant two new souls had become members. After a joyful welcome, the call for tithes went out. Abraham opened the doors and entered. Everyone's eyes fell immediately on him. A stranger in a small town will never go unnoticed, and Abraham's appearance most likely garnered extra attention. His worn suit and old clothes shoes were still dusty from the road, and sweat beaded on his bald head. His black skin stood in stark contrast to the various brown hues of the members, and his height could not be ignored. The deacon shook his hand limply as he made his way forward. He reached into his pants pocket and took out a solid gold coin. As he dropped it into the sweet grass basket, he looked at the pastor. The man was young, but he knew what that coin meant. Abraham smirked, made his way back to the rear of the church, then waited for the benediction. The members trailed out slowly, taking the time to catch up with each other and share the latest gossip. They greeted Abraham kindly, as people in such places do, careful to hide their curiosity. The children were not so modest. Who that man, Mama? Why is he so tall and so black? Daddy, that man ain't got no hair. Why is he walking with that stick? Is he crippled? The pastor finally said farewell to the last member. He locked his eyes with Abraham, then strode up to him. His voice was not kind. What are you doing here? Abraham smiled. If you know who I am, then you know why I'm here. That's impossible. We're God-fearing people in these parts. I know every last one of my members like family. If there was something wrong, I would know. Abraham sighed. It always started the same way. Pastor Long, I'm sure you think you know them, but everybody has secrets. Besides, not everyone in this county is part of your flock. Abraham's stomach growled. It had been a while since he had a good meal. But we can talk about that later. What I need right now is a good meal and a bit of rest. There's a motel a mile down the road, the pastor replied. Sarah Birdsong is the owner. The rates are reasonable and the food is good. Tell her I sent you. I was expecting you to invite me into your home, Abraham said. I'll do no such thing, Long replied. I'll meet you at the motel. Abraham shrugged. Pastor Long was going to be difficult. As you wish, but you need to get your head right. This situation has to be handled. The longer we wait, the worse it will get. Do you understand? Pastor Long swallowed. I do. Abraham extended his hand and Pastor Long took it. The young man had a firm grip, which pleased Abraham. He might just be strong enough to survive what was to come. Which way is the motel? Long hesitated before answering. I'll take you. Give me a minute to close up. Abraham smiled. I'm in no hurry. The pastor walked back to his church, entering the front door, then closing it behind him. Abraham took the time to feel the area around him, extending his senses across the dormant fields and the surrounding woods. This was his first time in the deep south. He could feel the spirits of the land, both good and evil. Though the landscape, flora, and fauna were unique, the people were the same as others around the world. Customs and costumes were different, but emotions were always similar. Pastor Long pulled up a few minutes later in his pickup truck. Abraham put his case in the truck bed, climbed into the passenger side, and they were on their way. You have a robust congregation, he said. Folks this way ain't got nothing except their faith, Long replied. Praying is the only hope they have. You from here? Long shook his head. I'm from up the road, Macon. Abraham recalled the city. So you're a city boy. Why would someone like you settle in a town like this? I needed the quiet, Long replied. War can do that to a person. Long glanced at Abraham. How do you know I served? I know a lot about you, Percy Long. That's why I came to your church. You're a person that knows violence. I might need that. Percy pulled the truck to the roadside. Look, Abraham, I know what kind of man you are, and I respect you for what you do. It takes a person of real faith to make that kind of sacrifice. But I'm not your man. Now, Reverend Thomas, he's the kind of man you're looking for. That man's faith is deep like oak roots. Randolph Thomas' faith is strong, but he's old. Y'all look about the same age if you ask me. We're not. I'm older, much older. Percy looked confused for a moment. He shook his head and pulled back onto the road. I'll do what I can, but I can't get directly involved. I'm responsible for these people's families and their spirits. If I can't do what I came here to do, they won't have either. So if you really want to protect them, you'll be there when I need you. Pastor Long took a left turn at a four-way stop and continued on. They finally arrived at the motel, a single row of rooms with a gravel parking lot. The check-in area occupied a separate building, crowned with a sign that read simply, Motel. As the pastor pulled into parking, a stout woman with dark brown skin exited from the main building, wearing a long dress covered by a soiled apron. A flowered scarf covered her head, a few strands of hair escaping the edge. She wiped her hands with a plaid cloth. Afternoon, Pastor, she said. What brings you around here? Looking for another lost sheep? Hey, Sarah. Not this time. Brought you some business. The slight smile on Sarah's face disappeared as she looked Abraham up and down. Abraham walked up to Sarah and extended his hand. My name's Abraham. It's nice to meet you. Man's lying already, Sarah replied. Come on, Sarah, Percy said. Abraham here is a priest, a very special one. If you say so, Sarah replied. Rooms are $25 a night standard, $35 if you're taking breakfast and dinner. I don't do lunch. How long you plan on staying? I'm not sure, Abraham replied. As long as it takes me to do what I came to do. Sarah tilted her head. What's that supposed to mean? A week, Abraham replied. Maybe 2. I need a week's pay up front, the rest when you check out. Sarah put out her hand. Abraham reached into his coat pocket, pulled out his wallet, then paid Sarah, counting out the bills. Sarah nodded and took a room key out of her apron pocket. Room 4. I'll bring you clean towels. Bed's already made. Enjoy your stay. Miss Sarah, you wouldn't happen to have any leftovers for breakfast, would you? I'm mighty hungry. I do. Help yourself with what's left. She turned and walked away. Friendly people in this county, Abraham said. That's just Sarah, Percy replied. Maybe you should stay with me. I'll be fine, Abraham said. Besides, unless you're married, I suspect her breakfast and dinner would be better than anything you can cook. Percy laughed. You're right about that. So when should I expect to see you again? I don't know, Abraham replied. But get ready and stay ready. Sarah met him at the door of the main building with a brown bag. Abraham took it, then shuffled to his room as Percy drove away. He opened the door and was relieved. It was a better than average space, with a decent sized bed, a dresser, and a small desk with a chair and a nightstand on which a small lamp rested. Abraham placed his case beside the bed, then inspected the bathroom before returning to the bed and taking off his jacket. He ate the cold bacon and grits, then took a shower. The hot water didn't work, but he didn't mind. After the shower, he ambled to his case and took out a t-shirt and coveralls. Under the clothing were tools of his trade, 3 old worn Bibles, an axe, a machete, a shotgun, and his favorite, his shotel. Abraham hummed as he sharpened the axe. He tested the edge with his finger, making a small cut on his thumb. Next was the machete, a souvenir from his time in Haiti. His smile faded as the memories came back. Haiti was grim work. Quite a few saints traveled home that day, but it was well worth it. As he put the blade back into his sheath, his eyes fell on the shotgun. This was a new addition, a gift after a cleansing in Louisiana. He broke the gun down, cleaning and oiling each part with Myron oil, careful not to overuse the rare and sacred liquid. He traveled far to obtain it. It was his most important part of his arsenal. Last to get his attention was the shotel. It was his most precious possession, and his least used. He kept it for sentimental reasons, but its effectiveness was still relevant. After cleaning his tools, he took his Ethiopian Bible and sat at the old desk to read. The words comforted and grounded him in his purpose. He had no idea what he would face, but he was prepared for the outcome, whatever that would be. Abraham greeted the morning sun in the motel parking lot. Eyes closed, he let his senses run free, seeking a destination. A foul taste touched the back of his throat, and he coughed. North, he whispered. The smell of fresh cooked bacon met him at the motel office door. Sarah carried pans from the kitchen, placing them side by side on a long table. We got grits, eggs, bacon, and biscuit, she said without looking his way. You can get 2 servings and be on your way. Yes, ma'am, Abraham replied. I ain't no ma'am, especially to you. You old as I am. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah's cooking was as good as she was mean. Abraham ate the 2 servings with relish. When Sarah came for his plate, he gave her a hopeful look. 2 servings, she said. Abraham smirked, then got up from the table. Where you headed? Sarah called out. Thought I'd walk around, see if I could find some day work. Head south of town. Day laborers usually wait outside of Billy Haney's store. Don't think I'll do that, Abraham replied. I got a feeling where I can find it. Sarah folded her arms across her chest. How you got a feeling about somewhere you ain't never been? Abraham turned to smile. I was born that way. Sarah walked away with Abraham's dishes. Crazy old man, she muttered, talking about he got a feeling. I got a feeling he ain't gonna find a damn thing. The sun rose, rolling its light and heat across the land like a quilt. Abraham ambled along the side of the road, catching wind gusts from the passing cars and pickup trucks. Axe slung over his shoulder, he seemed to fit into a place where work was scarce for a man like him. Cars passed him, drivers and passengers sharing perfunctory smiles and waves. Abraham was a few miles into his trek when a battered pickup truck slowed beside him. The driver was a heavy-set white man, his thick arms hanging outside the door, the smile on his red, sweaty face predatory. 5 men sat in the bed of the truck, Their unkempt clothes and solemn expressions were a reflection of their situation. A sense of dread weighed heavily on Abraham. His grip tightened on his axe. "You looking for work, boy?" Abraham forced a smile on his face. "I am." "Get in." Abraham hesitated. The driver's eyes narrowed. "What you waiting on? You want to get paid or what?" Abraham backed away from the truck. "I appreciate the offer, but I think I'll just keep looking." The truck driver grinned. "Thought you'd say that, demon killer." The men in the back leaped out of the truck bed, teeth bared and fingers transformed into claws. Abraham swung his axe, decapitating the first demon, then dropped and back rode away from the second. His axe sliced the abdomen of the second demon, releasing putrid guts that spilled onto his shoes. Abraham's swing missed the third demon. He winced as it bit into his shoulder while the other demon grabbed his axe. "Hold him!" the now deformed driver shouted. The massive creature stumped to Abraham, slobber dripping from his mouth. "You thought you could come here unnoticed, priest?" it growled. "We smelled you the moment you entered our realm." The beast leaned forward. "The only reason I don't kill you now is because our master wishes to do it himself." Abraham smiled, then bit off the demon's nose. It screamed as it staggered backwards, black bile seeping through his claws. Abraham yanked his arm free from the stunned minions, then snatched the vial of myron oil from his pocket. He splashed the oil into the faces of both of them, and they fell to their knees, their howls drowning out his other demons' wails. They melted, flesh and bones diminishing until all that remained was two smoking heaps. Abraham picked up his axe, then marched to the large demon. He crouched warily, its eyes darting from Abraham to the other dead demons. "You are no priest," it said. "I am," Abraham replied. "And I'm not." Abraham's pupils transformed from circles to slits, his fingers extending into claws. The large demon's face showed its fury. "Traitor!" It leapt at Abraham. Abraham waited till it was almost upon him before dropping to his knees and raising his axe. The razor-sharp edge sliced the demon from its neck to his loins. It was dead before it hit the ground. Abraham knelt beside the demon, then took his head into his hands as he reverted to his human form. It had been a long time since he used his hive mind, and the sensation repelled him. After a few seconds, he found what he was looking for. He stood and applied a few drops of the oil onto the large demon. In seconds, it melted into the ground like the others. Abraham checked the truck. The keys were still in the ignition. He started the vehicle and drove back to the hotel. Time was of the essence. He rushed into his room to gather his things, throwing them into his suitcase. "Who'd you steal that truck from?" Abraham turned to see Sarah standing in the doorway. He grimaced as he finished packing. "I ain't harboring no thieves," she said. "Hard enough for a colored woman to own a business establishment and have to be dealing with miscreants. I need you to leave my hotel, Abraham." "That's what I'm doing. I found what I was looking for." Abraham brushed by Sarah as he left the room. She grabbed his wrist. "Oh, no, you don't. You owe me for another week's rent." "I only stayed one night. 1 week's pay should be enough." "It's not." Abraham looked down at Sarah's hand gripping his wrist, then looked into her eyes. His pupils transformed. "Let go of me," he growled. Sarah's eyes went wide as she jerked her hand away from Abraham and grasped her chest. "Lord Almighty!" Abraham tossed his case into the truck bed, then climbed into the truck cabin and drove away. He watched Sarah from the rearview mirror as she recovered and ran into the office. Abraham rarely revealed himself, but sometimes people needed the hell scared out of them. Sarah would either call the police and report a stolen truck, or she would cower in her room hoping he wouldn't come after her. Abraham didn't care. He had work to do, and he needed to do it now. Abraham drove to the church. Percy's car was parked out front. He saw the young pastor tending to the nearby cemetery. He hesitated at the sight of the sacred ground, a place where he could not enter. Instead, he honked the truck horn. Percy looked up, then strolled to the truck. His welcoming smile disappeared when he saw who was driving. "Get in," Abraham said. "It's time." Percy hurried to his car. "I have to get some things." Abraham shook his head. "No, you don't. I got everything we'll need. Now come on. Abraham climbed out the driver's seat and gave Percy the keys. You drive. Where are we going? I don't know yet, but I have a feeling. Percy drove the truck onto the main road. Which way? Abraham lowered his head and closed his eyes. Right. Percy sped down the two-lane highway, casting glances at Abraham. The priest concentrated on the foul trail leading to the demon. They came to a four-way stop. Left, Abraham said. He opened his eyes as they drove by a fallow cornfield swarming with red-winged blackbirds. It was a huge flock, 1,000 birds at least. As they continued down the road, the swarm came closer to the road. Abraham watched the birds, his eyes narrowing. A moment later, his eyes widened. Speed up, he said. Why? Speed up now! Percy was about to protest when hundreds of blackbirds engulfed the pickup. Their small bodies crashed against the windows, their feathers and blood becoming a blinding shield. Percy began slowing down. What are you doing? Abraham asked. I can't see. I can't keep driving. Don't stop and don't slow down. I'll tell you what to do. Abraham prayed and pressed on the gas. Percy prayed and pressed on the gas. Abraham grimaced as he focused on the spiritual spore. Right! Percy jerked his wheel to the right. The bird swarm intensified, the front windshield cracking from the constant battering. Percy turned on the wipers out of desperation. Left! Abraham shouted. Percy turned left. The truck transitioned from paved street to gravel path, jostled by the uneven surface. Speed up! Abraham shouted. Are you crazy? Abraham pressed his left foot on top of Percy's, pushing the truck to maximum speed. This is too fast, Percy protested. We might... Brace yourself, Abraham said. What? The truck crashed. Percy and Abraham lurched forward, Percy's head hitting the steering wheel. Abraham hit the dashboard, then bounced back into his seat. The truck engine died, the vehicle rolling forward on a momentum, then stopping. As the truck came to a halt, the swarming birds disappeared, revealing a dirt road leading to a large farm complex. We're here, Abraham said. Abraham stepped out of the truck, stepping over and on bird carcasses as he walked to the truck bed. He let down the gate, then climbed into the bed to retrieve his case. Percy waited at the gate, helping him down. Abraham opened the gate, revealing his tools. He strapped his dagger around his waist, then gave Percy the other. He then grabbed his sword. What's that? Percy asked. It's called a show tell, Abraham replied. It's an old weapon, particularly good for killing demons. So what do I get? Percy replied. And please don't give me a sword. You might as well kill me now. Abraham admired Percy's ability to make humans such a grave situation. He was a true warrior. He reached into the case and took out a pump-action shotgun. Here. Percy smiled as he took the shotgun. He worked the pump a few times and aimed it. This has been well maintained. Where are the shells? Abraham reached into his pocket and took out one shell. That's it? You got to be kidding me. It's all you need. Trust me. I think I want a sword. A piercing howl shattered their conversation. Abraham looked around the truck and spotted a demon horde running toward them. I'll take the lead. You keep them off me. He ran to face their attackers. Percy caught up with him, loading the one shell into the chamber. Abraham glanced back. Percy had his axe slid between his belt and his waist. Just in case you lied. Abraham nodded, then rushed forward. He raised his sword to kill the first demon, but there was a large boom and the creature's head exploded. A grim smile creased Abraham's bloodied face. Percy was committed. The duo worked as a team, taking down the demons with sword and shot. Halfway through the slaughter, the demons realized the futility of their efforts. They tried to flee, but Abraham and Percy would not let them. Abraham was killing the last of them when something large and hard slammed into him. The showtail flew from his hand as he tumbled across the ground. His feet found purchase and he stood, shaking his head clear. Standing before him was the one he sought. Cockaloom, the demon said. Boss, Abraham replied. So the stories are true, Boss said. Not only have you betrayed us, you have taken their form. Repent or die, Abraham said. Boss laughed. There's no redemption for us. Me, nor you. You know the deal we made. You cannot break it on the word of one priest. Nothing will save your soul. Abraham felt Boss's words. Doubt entered his mind for the first time in many years. Abraham, what is he talking about? Percy asked. Abraham turned to Percy, confusion on the pastor's face. Come back to us, Cockaloon, Bass said. We will join hands as brothers and feast on this one's flesh. The hell you will. Percy fired the shotgun. Abraham transformed into his true self and sprinted for his show tail with inhuman speed. As he picked it up and spun around, Boss appeared before Perry, his mouth open wide. Down! Abraham shouted. Percy collapsed as Abraham threw his sword. Boss was fast, but not fast enough. The sword struck his shoulder, sending him spinning to the ground. Abraham ran to Percy and took the axe from his belt. He stood over Boss as the beast struggled to take the sword from his shoulder. You might as well stop, Abraham said. The myron oil is doing its work. Bastard, Boss screamed. I'll see you in hell. Abraham brought the axe down on Cockaloon's head. He smashed the weapon into the beast again and again until nothing was left but pieces. As he lowered the axe, he heard the cocking of the shotgun. He turned to see Percy aiming his gun at his head. Is what he said is true? Percy asked. Yes, Abraham replied. So you're a demon? I am. Centuries ago, in the land you know as Ethiopia, I gave up my soul to live. I did not know the price I would pay. I was consumed by what I had become, and took it out on those who I once cared for. No priest or person had the strength of faith to stand against me, except Abraham. Cockaloon's mind traveled back to that day. I nearly lost my life. Never had I encountered a human so strong, so determined, so full of faith. I felt remorse when I finally struck him down. As I stood over him, watching him die, his face became solemn, peaceful. He looked into my eyes and said, I forgive you. And then he died. Tears welled in Cockaloon's eyes. This ordinary man had fought me and given his life, embracing that which I had sold my soul to avoid. Those 3 words struck me harder than any weapon. Cockaloon looked up. It was then I assumed his life and took up his calling, hoping that I would one day be forgiven by a higher calling. Cockaloon looked at Percy, who still held the shotgun at his head. If you decide to kill me, then so be it. I am ready. All that I ask is that you consider continuing the task that I accepted, and that you honor Abraham's memory. With that, Cockaloon closed his eyes. I'm not killing you, Percy said. Not because you deserve to live, but because I have no intention of becoming a demon hunter. He lowered the shotgun. You need to go, Cockaloon said. The authorities will be here soon. Percy extended the shotgun to Cockaloon, but he shook his head. It is yours. You have the faith to use it. Percy smiled. The truck too? Of course. Now go. I have much to do. Percy climbed into the truck. Abraham? Cockaloon? Whoever you are, I hope you find what you're looking for. Cockaloon smiled. Thank you, Pastor. Percy drove away. Cockaloon took out his vial of myron oil, then dispersed the drops on all the demon bodies. He walked up to the main house, inspecting it for any stragglers. Finding it empty, he located cans of kerosene and soaked the floors. With the light of a match, the building went up in flames. Cockaloon retreated into the nearby woods. He inspected his case, then looked at his his Myron oil supply. He always wondered why it didn't damage him like the others. Maybe it was a show of some redemption. Whatever the reason, it was almost empty. He needed more. He would have to go back to Ethiopia for it, which pleased him. It had been a while since he was home, decades to be exact. Maybe more than just oil awaited him there. He secured his case, then faded into the pines. And that was Battle Axe from the Skerry Tales short story collection by yours truly. I'm trying to look at the camera, but it looks like I'm looking that way. But hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this live reading. If you did like it, and if you'd like to see more, let me know in the comments. Just put down there and say, hey, I like to see you read some more stuff, and I'll see what I can do. And also make sure you subscribe to my channel. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys again soon. Y'all take care. Peace.